Hi, my name is Larry Taylor. If you would like to ask questions during the show, you can type your questions into the chat window and we will do our best to answer them. This video is about how we can democratically work together to change the structure of the Democratic Party. If this is not a topic you're interested in, then you can save yourself some time and not continue. For those of you who are interested in this topic, please stay on. So the agenda today is we'll start out with an introduction and background to this, and then we will go through the why, the who, the how, the what, and when that addresses what we need to do to achieve our objectives. So your first question is probably, who is Lawrence Taylor? I'm a longtime Democratic Party activist. I am a former member of the Democratic National Committee. I was in there between 2013 and 2016. I was a delegate to both the 2012 and 2016 Democratic National Conventions. I have occupied various positions in the party since 1996. I am currently a member of the State Rules Party, State Rules Committee. I am a professional registered parliamentarian with the National Association of Parliamentarians, and I'm a founding member of this organization, People for Democratic Party Reform. So just to give you a little background on democracy and why this is so important, and perhaps why other efforts have not been successful, democracy and the rules of democracy is really about the distribution of power. So the concept of democracy is that the power lies with the people, and the decision-making lies with a majority of those people. So there's really three models, and please show the next slide. There's three models that we deal with. We have what was in Athens at around 500 BC, which was pure democracy. The Athenians would gather in a field and people would talk, and then everyone would vote. You find this level of democracy in society today in things like homeowners associations, where you have a membership and you have leadership, and the membership actually votes on what transpires in the organization. Then you have representative democracy, which is what we find in most of our government. We have representatives that make decisions for us that we elect. And so we have given our power from the people to the representatives to make decisions for us, and our decisions is pretty much relegated to electing who represents us, and then at somewhere along the way there's leadership that's elected that has some level of power. And then we have autocratic democracies, which is what I call organizations like the Democratic National Committee, where we have transferred most of the power from the people to the leadership, and there's some representatives along the way, but really once we have elected the leadership, they're good to go with whatever they want to do. The next slide, please. So the key to changing the way things work is, if you want to rebalance power, you have to change the rules. We are a country based on rules, and there's written rules and there's unwritten rules, but really we have rules, and there are rules that govern all aspects of the Democratic Party, and it is those things that we need to change to achieve what we want, if we want it to behave differently. Because at this point we have transferred enormous power from the people to the chair of the Democratic National Committee. Next slide, please. So this is how the rules currently define the Democratic Party structure. At the very bottom, we have the people, and their participation in the Democratic Party is pretty minimal. They elect precinct committee people every couple of years, and usually when they elect precinct committee people, they get a ballot in that has these names, and it talks about the Democratic Party, and no one can ever remember what this is for, but they usually check off the boxes, and this is why anyone who runs for a precinct committee member is usually elected, because there's very few positions that are competitive. But these are the people who represent the Democrats in their precinct. And if the system works correctly, you as Democrats would be talking with your representatives to your county party and sharing your ideas and your values so that they know what to take to the county party organization. I suspect rarely this happens, and if you ever see your precinct committee person, it's probably during elections when they're going door to door and working on behalf of a candidate. Those precinct committee members then belong to a county organization, and this is again a generic model. There's variations in all of the states and the territories, but basically this is how it works. So there's a county party, and the county party elects delegates to a state central committee, which is the state party. This is the organization then that elects two entities from that. They elect the members of the Democratic National Committee, and this is over on the right side of the image. And the delegates to the Democratic National Committee are then who elect the Democratic National Committee chair, which is currently Tom Perez. And then Tom Perez has been given great power in the bylaws of the DNC to appoint whoever he wants to the Rules Committee of the DNC and the Platform Committee. And the reason why these are so important is that the DNC rules are where things are written that govern the conventions, and in particular, they govern how delegates are allocated to the states, which just astonishes me, the formula that is being used, because it is not democratic. Everyone complains about the Electoral College not being proportionate to representing the Democrats. But if you look at how the delegates are allocated to the states by the DNC, that is not proportionate by any stretch of the imagination. And just for example, they penalize states who move their primaries up. Has nothing to do with democratic representation. Then there's the Platform Committee that defines the values of the Democratic Party. And this is a document that's hard fought over. And if you remember in 2016, Bernie Sanders stayed in the running against his opponent. And there were some major battles that were waged inside the Platform Committee meetings, but Sanders was able to get some key progressive issues baked into the platform of the Democratic Party. There's lots of discussion about how much value this adds, but at least you have a document that describes what we as Democrats believe in. Over on the left side, then we have the various models in each state, and you have to read your state bylaws to really understand how these work. But the State Central Committee elects a chair, and I know in my state, again, we have given enormous power to the chair, and what hasn't been given to the chair seems to take anyway. And in our state, they appoint the Rules Committee chair and the Platform Committee chair. If you look at the parliamentary authority, which is for us Robert's Rules of Order, it clearly states that these committee chairs are accountable to the membership, but in reality, because they're appointed by the chair, they are accountable to the chair. If you want to change any of this, of the aspects of how the Democratic Party functions, then it's the bylaws that govern these different bodies that have to be modified. So then the question is, how do we go about doing that? Go to the next slide. So there are two ways to return power. You reduce the layers of representation. So if you remember on the previous slide, the distance between the people at the bottom and the DNC chair at the top has many, many layers of filtration. And so it's really hard for me, Joe Citizen, to believe that I have any effect at all on who is elected chair of the Democratic National Committee. Or you can move decisions from the leadership to the membership. And by decisions, actually, I mean power. And one of the things that we need to do is reduce the number of places where appointments are made. I'm sure this was put in place for all the good intentions. People don't want to be bothered with the qualifications of people on committees, and we can trust our leadership to appoint who would be the best fit. but in reality, it really needs to be turned back into a democratic process, and people have to really care. So why is reform of the Democratic Party necessary? Everyone believes, and we are told, that the Democratic Party is the party of the people. But the problem that we have is that the aspirational goal of the Democratic Party does not align with how the rules currently structure the party. So, the things that go on inside the Democratic Party, like in 2016, the built-in favoritism for Bernie Sanders' opponent wasn't really exposed until the stuff from WikiLeaks was dumped into the public. But that is why we need Democratic Party reform. And we see a little bit of it this time, not a little bit, we see a significant amount of it this time, where we get members of the Democratic National Committee stating anybody but Sanders. I mean, Sanders is the qualified candidate running for president, and he should be treated equally with all his other opponents. And there should not be the party overtly working against him, but that's what we need to change. So the next topic is who should reform the Democratic Party. I have been told that there are many people that are working on reform of the Democratic Party. I hear a lot of armchair quarterbacking, but I don't see a lot of plans being put in place to actually do that. I believe the Sanders campaign, or Our Revolution, is having some thoughts, because we've heard them talk about the Unity Commission 2.0, making additional reforms after the 2020 convention. But really, we shouldn't be dependent upon a political party for or a group within the party like that has a bias and the ability to do horse trading. What we need is a coalition of people, preferably those who hold power or intend to hold voting power within the party, to make these changes. And it needs to come from the people, because when we organize, we win. This is something that we talk about, but we have, as progressives, seem to have great difficulty in organizing. So the group of people that we would like to pull together inside the People to Reform the Democratic Party are elected delegates to the Democratic National Committee, a candidate who will file to run in the next available election to be a delegate to the Democratic National Committee, because these are the people who vote, and we need our people inside the Democratic National Committee at the table voting on this stuff. And if we don't have a majority, at least we can bring up the issues and make sure that they get a proper airing. We also would like the elected delegates to the Democratic National Convention to join in, because the convention is the highest meeting within the Democratic Party, and we can actually make changes from the floor. The Rules Committee for the convention will be meeting, and it is possible to pass some changes that will be accepted on the floor, and we could actually amend the bylaws of the Democratic Party at the convention. We would like any filed candidate to be a delegate at the next Democratic National Convention, to be a part of this group. Because of the timing this year, we will not know who the delegates are in many instances until after the middle of June. And there is not a lot of time between the middle of June and the actual convention, which at this point starts on August 17th, to coordinate. Excuse me. And so we need to start working now, so that we have our organizational plans in place to put into action. We invite members of the Rules Committee or the Platform Committee to the Democratic National Committee to join in, because again, they're the ones that will be at the table who can then argue for and represent us. We would like any delegate to the state or territory central committees, because those are the people who then can affect change at the state level. We're also inviting officers to this organization, the People for a Democratic Party Reform, to be members, and then any registered Democrat can also join. The emphasis is on people who can vote and actually affect change, but there's a lot of talented people who would like to engage in this effort. who do not actually have a voting position or intend to run for one, but we want to avail ourselves of their talent as well. So how will we affect these reforms? It will be a coalition of party members working as a democratically functioning organization, which will decide what to change and how to implement the changes. The emphasis here is on a democratically run organization. There are groups that spring up that think they're going to do something, but if you start looking behind the curtains, you find out that there are no laws, there's no rules or bylaws governing the organization, and you have leadership that's sitting at the top. However well intended, they have great difficulty in giving up power, and so their organization is really at the most an autocratic democracy. You know, there's some voting that goes on, but has anyone elected the leadership? No, they're probably the personalities that showed up, and this is the problem with personality-based organizations, is that they tend to disappear when the personalities go away. And so what we have done to make this a effective, enduring organization is that we have developed a set of bylaws which will govern the actions of the organization, which everyone then participates in electing the leadership. So we invite anyone who is interested in reforming the Democratic Party to join up and participate in this. So when should the Democratic Party be reformed? We do start now. It was telling in the 2016 election that we were not as organized as we should be. I was at the convention. I showed up at preliminary meetings where we were supposed to get together and plan. There was no leadership of the meeting, and so people would talk, but you know, there was nobody that was actually elected by anyone or appointed by anyone. And so when we got to the Rules Committee meeting, there was no coordinated plan to do anything. All we had was a way to coordinate our vote, but it was no more sophisticated than that. And you know, I would like to put out a vision that we arrive at the convention with a worked out plan of what we want to do and what we want to change. The next meeting of this organization will be at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday, April 21st, which is in a couple of weeks. The third Tuesday of the month is the regular membership meeting. If you would like to read the bylaws and register to join the meeting, you go to the website, which is pdpr.org. If you have questions about what we are doing, you can, again, go to the website, which is pdpr.org. If you would like to email us, you can email us at info@pdpr.org. And you can follow me on Twitter at ltaylor_PDPR. I hope this was informative to you. I hope you are motivated to join in. We welcome all members of Congress and candidates running for Congress to join in as well. Why don't we get together, organize, and get the Democratic Party reformed. Thank you so much for joining today. By all means, contact us and sign up. Thanks.